Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown Podcast, the first opposition show of the season. Match day 1 of 46 is upon us, and I'm delighted to be joined by Luke from Swansea Podcast, SwansCast, to preview the first game of the 2025-26 season. Bit of deja vu, isn't it, Luke? First game of the season, the exact same.
Yeah, what are the chances of that? I don't really understand how that can happen 2 years in a row, especially the same fixture, like away as well.
God,
but there we go. It is what it is, and like you can't do anything about it. So hopefully we can have a better go this time.
Yeah, a tough journey for those hardened Swansea fans, I'll tell you that for one. We'll get straight into it then. How are you feeling about the upcoming season from a Swansea perspective?
To be honest, been quite positive for most of the summer. It's been quite exciting, to be honest, in 2025 for Swansea. Started off with a massive slump of form and quite worrying performances on the pitch. However, we did get taken over quite quietly, actually, really, when it comes to club takeovers in like November last year. But ever since then, the trickle effect from the board level of like changes at that part of the club has kind of been quite big. So I'm sure people would have heard you had Luka Modric join in as a part owner earlier this season. Yeah. And as I said, this year now has got more exciting. Since that's bad form, it picked up after the change of manager. So the pitch performances got really good, and we had a really good end to the season. Luka Modric joined in the summer then. Snoop Dogg has joined him as a co-owner as well, which...
What a duo.
Crazy. Like, if you told me a year ago those things would happen, I would have just laughed in your face. Do you know what I mean? Like and it's not like, obviously I'm smiling about it. It's not... Luka Modric is good from a football perspective. Snoop Dogg, you're like, okay, what's he really there for? But for Swansea, we struggled since we come down from the Premier League to really compete in a financial aspect within the league. And I'm sure a lot of teams kind of feel that in that boat. But we've gone from 7 years in the Premier League, and I think we're like near the bottom end of money, wages, and all of that sort of stuff, and how much we spend on transfers in the league now. So, it's good for us when we able to compete the way we have been, even though we're in a sort of downward trajectory, if you like. So Snoop Dogg's come in, and I think the goal of that is to try and raise the commercial profile, raise the sort of global profile of the club, to try and help the commercial revenue and find other ways to make money and bring money into the club, which is what they've been saying at board level for so long. We need to find other ways to generate resources to then be able to put it on the pitch and be more competitive. And it actually looks like maybe now some of those things are happening. So that's nice to see, and it's given a bit of a buzz around the place. And that's been coupled with some good positive signings as well, to be fair. We haven't got the depth in the squad that I think we need for a season. But the players that we've signed, most of them young, potential for the future, but also like good enough to start already. So, and decent fees and like money, they look quite shrewd bits of business, to be honest. It's just getting them all to click, and I think we've lost a lot of experience. So we'll see how it goes into the season, but there's a lot of things to be positive about.
Yeah, I was going to say about the transfer window, there has been a decent amount of change. I think it's 6 incomings and 14 outgoings, if you include the loans going back. Lewis O'Brien, former Boro loanee, was one of those. How would you assess the business so far? Because we were talking off air, it's been kind of a little bit slow. I think Boro fans can relate to that as well.
Yeah, we kind of got a lot of our business done quite early. It slowed down a little bit now going into the season. Yeah. But I think the issue with it is we made some of the signings that we made. We're all really happy with them, to be honest, most of them, and quite excited to see what they could bring. But I think seeing the performances in the friendlies and seeing what the bench has had to offer with a couple of injuries in the squad. Now we've got the first game in a couple of days' time. That's where the worry has crept in for like maybe they've been a bit slow in that regard, looking at the depth of things, but also wouldn't want them to rush into anything. So it's kind of a little bit of a waiting game. And I guess you always start a little bit on the back foot when the transfer window ends into the season, which that's a different conversation altogether. But the transfer window, or the business they've done, I think it's been one of the best summer windows we've had probably since we got relegated, if I'm honest. Like the names that we've brought in, Cameron Burgess on a free transfer from Ipswich was a big one that a lot of other fans from other teams were a bit surprised at as well, and has been sort of highlighted as a bit of a coup. Ethan Galbraith from League One. You mentioned Lewis O'Brien has left. He came in to replace Mac Grimes, who left in January, who has been in our squad forever at this point. He did a good job of replacing him. We weren't quite sure how that was going to work, but Lewis O'Brien smashed it, to be fair. So we had kind of like that hole to fill again for the second time in 2 windows, and Galbraith has been the one that's been trusted to do that. We are going to miss O'Brien, don't get me wrong, because he had such a big impact. We did have a sniffer trying to get him back, but just couldn't compete with the financial package that was needed for that one. But Galbraith is the way we go in. So again, look into the future there, bringing him up from League One. Quite an exciting talent. I believe he came from Man United's youth academy a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And he's highly thought of as well with a lot of clubs in the Championship seeking his signature too. The other ones of note would be Melka Vidal, who we actually signed in January, but he was sent back on loan to his club that we signed him from as part of the deal, which I think was the main reason we actually got him, because other teams weren't willing to do that compromise. So he's an exciting one to watch out for in the centre attack in midfield. He's actually been capped for Sweden since we signed him. So only one, I think it was a bench appearance, but still shows his credentials potentially for the future. And Zidane Anusa, who's actually the one that we've spent the most amount of money on, we think. I mean, everything's undisclosed these days, but we believe he's the one that's cost the most, even though a lot of the package, I think, is future installments. He's a winger. Again, we signed him from the continent. He's Swedish, and I think he's like part Swedish. He's got a dual nationality, but left winger, sort of player will get bums off seats. Unfortunately, I can't tell you that much about him yet because he's picked up an injury pre-season and we haven't seen too much about him. He came back on as a substitute on the weekend, so hopefully he'll be fit for this one. But by all accounts, he's an exciting signing. We just need to kind of see him on a pitch a bit more before I can tell you what to expect from him, really. So it all looks good for the future. It's just one of those where, like, you know, they got it all click, and hopefully it doesn't take too long for that to happen, because we did lose quite a lot of experience in the last window or two.
Looking at your squad then, what positions do you think you are still yet to strengthen that you probably need to?
Not necessarily yet to strengthen, but we definitely need more strength in centre-back. So Ben Cabango has been out injured for all of pre-season, and that's left Cameron Burgess essentially as the only senior centre-back available. We actually did sign another centre-back, Ricardo Santos, from Bolton on a free, so he's come up late in his career, but I think he was signed to be like 3rd or 4th choice, but he picked up an injury in his first pre-season game. Has been out for a couple of months now.
You're about as cursed as we are.
Yeah, so we've got one fit senior centre-back currently, and that's a problem. It's been a problem in pre-season. It was a problem on the weekend game, which is, you know, the main test before the season starts. We played Laurent from the French league, and it was quite clear. I think we played a youngster in centre-back alongside Burgess, who hasn't played for the club yet. So it's nice to see youth get a chance, but I think it also showed probably can't rely on that going into the championship season at the moment. I hope he could continue to develop and gets opportunities to do that, don't get me wrong, but I would be a little bit concerned if we're starting next week with that partnership, because you've got a new player coming in. As much as he's experienced and has played at the Premier League level, he's got no one to gel with. You know, he's coming into a new club as it is with no centre-back partner to gel with, and being expected to be the leader there. He actually acted as captain in the last friendly with Cabango out injured. But also because we've had so much change in midfield, the normal protection and sort of relationship between the defence and midfield isn't there. So I think not having a stable defence coupled with a lot of newness in midfield has just meant we've been a bit exposed when it comes to oppositions creating opportunities. So yeah, I think we definitely need another centre-back, but also the wing-backs. We don't have cover. So Timon on the left, he's the only senior left-back, and Josh Key on the right is the only senior right-back. Ethan Galbraith can play there, but it's not what he was signed for. And we've got a youngster, Sam Parker, who can also slot in, but he's more of a winger than a right-back, even if he can do a job there. So 1 or 2 injuries in the back line and we are really in trouble. So that's an area we really need to get sorted, I think, as soon as possible.
I'm getting a lot of parallels here between Swansea and Boro, because with the injuries in particular, we have had a real rough go of it the last few seasons, and it's happening again in pre-season as well. So I think the game on Saturday could be a little bit of a Spider-Man meme there. 2 very similar teams in different regards.
Yeah.
With everything in mind then, what you've just said, what are your expectations for the season? Because Swansea last season, 11th place beneath Middlesbrough. Do you feel like you could kick on maybe next campaign?
The important thing for us is we need a season of stability where whoever starts the campaign in charge, so Alan Sheen in this time round, finishes it. basically, and has a good go at it, manages to do a full season. If he's still out by the end, you'd expect that it's gone half decent. If you look at, the form last year, like before we had a slump in January with Luke Williams, we were okay. We had a really bad spell, January, February. He got sacked, and then we were really good again. Alan Sheehan actually did a very good job at the end of the season, and was the points per game that he returned in that spell in charge, I think, was good enough for top 4, which is crazy considering how our season went. But that's how we ended up shooting back up the table to even finish where we did. I think if you take away January, February, and have the average points per game through the season, we probably finished in about the right place. So we maybe would have had a chance of cracking playoffs without that drop in form, which happened for certain reasons, which I'm not going to go into now, but self-inflicted, in my opinion, by the manager, and just sort of derailed our season. So it's a shame. But this year, we just need a full year. I don't necessarily mind if we don't end up in the playoffs, or we're not fighting that at the end. I would like to finish at least mid-table. So say 11th was last season. If we can get there again with a season of stability, that should just help us going forward with another transfer window or two, then going into next year, where we can continue to build on that platform, because we have brought a lot of youth in. So they need a bit of game time, bit of experience at this level. And it's just about, time, I think, a bit of patience, but we just need to make sure we're consistent and have a season where we end it with the same sort of structure that we started it, and maybe then we can have a look at what's forward. But I think when we change in a manager, like so often, which it's not the club being reactive, there's reasons for it. The last 2 years, there's been a few different managers and sackings and stuff. So we just need that stability really to push on. But I would like to say mid-table is where we need to be at the end of the year.
Yeah, you mentioned Alan Sheehan there, from interim to head coach, 3-year deal. Where are your confidence levels with him?
Well, to be honest, he's a bit untested when it comes to like a full-time gig. He's had 2 caretaker spells in charge of Swansea. If you asked me after the first one, I wouldn't have wanted him to be the manager then when Luke Williams came in after that. As much as he did a very good job of stabilising things and steadying the ship, it didn't feel like the right person at the time. The football wasn't great. He did a job, he got the performances, he showed up the defence, and he got some results and some points in when he needed to, and that helped them with the next manager. He obviously did the same thing the second time and did all of those things I just mentioned, but probably in a bit of a better way. And they gave him basically till the end of the season in charge, and you think a longer time in charge, more games to sample, and the job that he kept doing, he showed up the defence again. He made us more rigid. He made us not necessarily losing what we were good at. We're not in the high 60% possession anymore. A little bit more direct, but I guess that's better. We're more efficient with the ball, which is probably something that we were missing. I think you could not give him the job after the job that he did at the end of the season. And there might be some reservation still about how is he going to do in a full year. But he deserves the chance, because he's earned that chance. And where you're going to start if you don't start somewhere? He delivered when he was asked twice. As I mentioned, the points per game he returned at the end of last season was one of the best in the league. I don't expect he'll be able to do that over a full course, but you've got to see what he can do now with his own team, with his own decision making, with the transfers and stuff, and a summer to sort of get his tactics imprinted into the team and see how that delivers. But I'm not necessarily going to sit here and say we've got a cracking manager now. I'm really confident about the season, but I'm also not worried, if that makes sense. I don't really know how he's going to deliver, but it's a low risk one, I think, for us in terms of finance. So hopefully it works out for us, and he can do a good job that he's already shown that he could be capable of doing.
Finally then, what are your predictions for the game on Saturday? Because it seems like it's a season of building for Swansea. It might even be a season of building for Middlesbrough. So how do you think Swansea will kick off their 25-26 campaign?
I think it's a tough game for us going away. I think any away game on your first day is not, you don't want that if you could choose. I guess last season we looked quite evenly matched by the end of the year, as you've already mentioned. However, our pre-season probably hasn't gone the way we would have liked in regards to our results in our friendlies. I did have a quick glance at yours. It might be a similar story from what I could
we
see.
haven't won yet. We didn't win a single one.
I think we won like half of a match against one of ours that we played like two. It wasn't like a proper match. It was like two smaller matches, if that makes sense. So like in one of the early ones, which no one really cares about that as more of a fitness exercise at that point. But ever since it's not even the fact that we haven't won. We've struggled to really score from open play with a lot of I think, there's a lot of players in that midfield that are still gelling and finding their feet. And it doesn't help then that we don't have the defensive assurance at the moment with Cabango out injured, which we don't know if he's going to be back or not for this one. And even if he is back, he hasn't really played, so it'll be his first match. So is he ready? Do you know what I mean? Like, are we just putting him in because we don't have another option, but he's not quite there? So it would be hard. Like I don't even feel confident to say now, but we can go and get a 0-0, and that's a good start to the season. I hope we can do well. I do think the team's looking in a good way, and I hope they can surprise me. I just haven't seen anything at the moment that suggests we're going to hit the ground running. So I'm a bit skeptical, and I think we're probably going to lose this one. So I'm going to say 2-1 to Middlesbrough.
Yeah, I feel like this one I feel like there's a draw written all over it. I mean, I'm only saying that based on Boro's pre-season results. 4 out of our 6 pre-season friendlies have ended in a draw. So I feel like it's only right to then predict a draw for this one. Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I feel like with both teams, there's business yet to do. As we've kind of discussed, it may be a building season for both teams. Lots of change for Swansea, change for Boro, more so with the manager in the dugout. So I think if we start off with a draw, I think, to be honest, that'll be probably the right result in the end. But for people that are watching and listening, let us know what your score predictions are for the game. If you pop it in the YouTube comments, if you're watching, if you get it right, we might give you a shout out on the post Swansea episode. But that will wrap things up for this. Luke, thank you very much for joining me on this. I wish you all the best for the season, except, of course, against the Boro. If you want to check out Luke's podcast, the SwansCast, we'll put the links to that in the description below, and we'll be in your ears again on Sunday, hopefully talking about a Middlesbrough victory. Until then, take care and up the Boro.